Welcome to Power Lifestyle. My name is Rasharn. Today I wanted to talk about vulnerability and how we can embrace it and make it something that is an asset or something that's positive in our life rather than the way that society currently looks at it, which is that it's an area of weakness. It's an area where other people can attack it, um, or that it's somewhere that we could place our self-esteem on. So I want to go through that real quick because there's actually a lot of power that we can find in vulnerability, specifically emotional vulnerability. And I'm saying this from my experience of having not explored vulnerability emotionally for most of my life. So I would say really more so the more recent years, I've been opening up emotionally. I've been exploring myself emotionally. I've been connecting with others on a more emotional level. And basically what I'm finding is that we are able to foster stronger connections with others. Now, when I say vulnerability, emotional vulnerability, I'm really going in about sharing something about ourselves from a place of acceptance and empowerment and just overall acknowledgement. So if someone brings up something, like let's say someone feels that they're insecure about their height. So that could be a negative vulnerability because someone, if they're insecure about it, it makes them feel a certain type of way. Someone else can come in and make fun of them for their height, insult them, make gestures about their height. That other person could emphasize how tall they are in comparison to the short person. So that's not quite what I'm advocating. And that's not to be insensitive at all to people who have insecurities. I think pretty much most people have some type of insecurity or another. But a positive example would be, sharing an experience that we've had, or a struggle, or a trauma, or maybe something we did in the past that we learned from, and being able to proactively share that with other people, so that maybe they could learn from the experience, sharing what you learned from the experience, and basically it's not something you identify yourself with. So let's see, a good one would be, okay, well maybe, let's say someone grows up in a poor background, and they had to, resort to, like say stealing from a grocery store, the back of a grocery store, and they just had to get by and survive. So they could look at that in different ways. If they ever came across someone who was in a similar situation, and let's say that second person was younger, that first person could be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what? When I was your age, or when I was in this situation, I had to do the same thing. I had to feed myself. I had to feed my family. And it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, this was something I had to do at the time. It's not something that defined me. It was more something that I felt I had to do based on my survival. And, letting that, basically that, being able to let that second person know it's okay to open up about your shadows, or the things that we don't like to talk about, so that there could be a more thorough discussion and dialogue between people. But let's say, because the things that we go through, they are sources of power. They are sources of inspiration for others. They are sources of relief for other people, and as us as well. When we share something that we've either experienced, we've done, had done to us, that would be considered shameful, or something we don't want to share, something we have fear and anxiety around. when we share those things, that releases a lot of tension in the body. It releases a lot of emotions in the body. It brings a sense of peace and, stability, inner stability, when we could say, okay, I can acknowledge this part of me. And so that's where there's power. Like that's a powerful form of vulnerability, is to share something that we may have formerly been insecure about or not wanted to share, but we're sharing it from a place of closure. We're sharing it from a place of hindsight and reflection, and we're able to kind of release it and let it go and no longer be attached to that situation, or to identify ourselves based upon what happened. So if, let's say, if a person suffered from sexual abuse, so I myself, I was molested when I was a lot younger, so that was something that I had actually blocked out of my memory entirely, and it didn't resurface until I was an adult. The memories and just the knowing and realization. And so there was definitely some shame I had around it. There was definitely some insecurity, some awkwardness, some anger. There was all these different things. So, it was something that I had completely put in the background. It was a huge vulnerability, and it had an impact on my entire life, whether I was consciously aware of it or not. And so over time, I grew more comfortable with the fact that that happened to me. I grew more comfortable eventually to find people I could trust and share it with them, and basically be like, hey, this is something that happened to me. I'm just trying to deal with it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So at that time, I was still trying to come to closure on it, and basically, so I could move forward. And so as I shared it with more people in my personal life, people that I trusted, I felt a relief. I felt a release. I felt like, oh, okay, yeah, this is not so bad after all, right? It's not something I have to be ashamed about. It could just literally be something that happened. So then that basically the final thing I'll say is that it brings, basically being empowered when being vulnerable, it brings a sense of clarity. It brings a sense of detachment. Because once you're clear on what the actual circumstances are, you know what your role in it was, you know what the other person's role in the event was, we also can stop putting so much weight on ourselves, while also, on the flip side of the coin, we can stop ignoring aspects of our life that have to be acknowledged, have to be integrated. So, and this is something that, with just many different things in my life, I've had to continue, pretty much continuously at this point, keep reviewing things, keep looking over things, making sure that I'm acknowledging the many different things that I've experienced in life, the things that have happened to me, the things that I've done. And so that it's brought a lot of power for me. It's brought a lot of clarity and personal evolution. And so that's what I wanted to share. And I hope that's something that you guys can relate to. If you have feedback, definitely leave a comment. If you've ever had someone that's shared something vulnerable, definitely feel free to leave a comment. If you've had the experience where you wanted to connect to someone more on an emotional level, and you wanted to kind of get to know them more, but they did not, and they refused to go there with you, hey, leave a comment as well. It's a very intense, subject for a lot of people, for most of us. So it's, I think the type of discussion is needed more. I think emotional connection is very missing right now when it comes to humanity as a whole. So, again, this is Power Lifestyle, and my name is Rasharn Medina. I hope you guys have a great week. Peace.